Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Capitol View. I'm Fred Martino. On Thursday, WSIU presented Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's State of the State and Budget Address. In a little more than 52 minutes, the governor addressed a wide range of issues and parts of his proposed fiscal plan. Today, reaction from the Senate Republican leader. I am very pleased to welcome Senator John Curran. Senator, thank you so much for being with us today.
Very nice to be with you.
Good to have you here. Senator, I want to start with the budget. As you know, projected deficits run as high as $900 million. The governor's plan extends a limit on operational losses that corporations can write off on their income taxes. A $100,000 cap was slated to expire at the end of the year. It would be extended 3 years, but would increase the cap to $500,000. That is the largest part of the governor's proposal for new revenue. The governor's office estimate reported by the Chicago Sun-Times is more than $500 million in revenue from that idea. Your thoughts on that proposal?
Fred, to back it up a little bit. So when the pandemic first started, the governor and revenues crashed with the state, and we were in a state of emergency. The governor, one of his proposals was to decouple that from the federal regulation and impose that cap. There was no cap prior to the COVID-19 pandemic on net operating losses because, when the idea of that is to smooth out business operations for our Illinois businesses and certainly as well as startup costs. Okay, we all understood the pandemic while we didn't support it. That was the governor's stated purpose. Revenues have ballooned in the meantime with all the influx of federal dollars. We had a proposal last year to eliminate that cap 1 year early. The governor has refused to let go of that revenue he is raising from this. And now we see, now that the pandemic is behind us, and we are at a record budget, record amount of revenue and spend. We are up $12.6 billion from the governor's first budget. He is still refusing to let that cap expire and get us back coupled with the federal net operating loss exemption, which is detrimental to our businesses here in Illinois, who, by the way, also suffered through the pandemic. So we are in complete opposition to this. This is a big step backwards. I realize he's raising that cap, but understand that these businesses have been sitting on these losses since the pandemic because of the $100,000 cap put in place. They had planned for that to come off the books this year. It is hard to run a business in Illinois when you get these knee-jerk reactions from the executive branch, from Governor Pritzker, because he can't control the spending side.
Okay, well, I want to ask you about another part of the governor's proposal. The Chicago Sun-Times says that the governor's office estimates about $200 million in revenue from another idea. This is more than doubling the state tax on sports betting revenue collected by sports books from 15% to 35%. Your thoughts on this?
This is an emerging market in Illinois. Sports gaming is new to Illinois. This is a significant increase in a new developing market. This is not, when we imposed a higher tax increase on what do you call it? The video gaming that occurs in bars and restaurants. It was a much more built out, established structure, and we gave them offsets to smooth it out. So this is an instance where we really have a partner in the space raising revenue for the state of Illinois, and now we're going to really imperil their ability to operate going forward. So I think this is another one where the legislature is going to take a very close look and make sure that we're not, really impairing this this area of gaming before it's even had an opportunity to really take hold in the state of Illinois.
Okay. Well, Republicans have been vocal in opposing additional spending on relief programs for immigrants, many of whom were sent to Illinois by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Governor Pritzker has proposed nearly $182 million in additional relief money in this next budget. Your thoughts on that?
The governor is looking to raise revenues, tax increases on families. The standard exemption, lowering the standard exemption is by far the most objectionable. And he's doing that to pay for his non-citizen welfare state that he has created. We are spending about $1 billion in this budget on the non-citizen welfare programs, which includes this $182 million you've highlighted. And at the same time, lo and behold, the budget's about $1 billion out of whack, and he's got to go raise $1 billion in revenue with more tax increases on Illinois families and businesses. So, we were hoping to hear the governor course correct in his presentation yesterday, roll back the non-citizen welfare programs that he has put in place over 6 years that are causing a financial crisis throughout the state, and especially in and around the city of Chicago. Unfortunately, the governor is doubling down on that approach.
Okay. In his speech, the governor criticized Republicans in Congress who refused to support a bipartisan deal to address the border crisis. Where do you stand on that? Was it a mistake to reject even voting on that legislation to reduce the number of immigrants that are coming into the country, which continue to cost Illinois, New York, Denver, I mean, many places around the country?
Look, the one thing our governor is an expert at is pointing the finger elsewhere. So we are laser focused on Illinois. The federal government needs to figure this out. The president and Congress, they need to get together and lead on this, and they got to get it figured out on their end. But we need to have our attention and focus here on Illinois. When the governor turned to that part of his speech and really just a lot of partisan rhetoric, that really does the people of the state a disservice. There was nothing unifying in that speech in that second half of his speech that the whole citizenry of this state could rally around. So I think it was a real missed opportunity by Governor Pritzker. The finger pointing, whether it's the mayor of Chicago, whether it's congressional Republicans, whether it's the governor of Texas, it is getting tiresome. It is time for this governor to step up and actually show some leadership.
The governor said that it is not acceptable for Illinois to fail to provide food and shelter for immigrants. He said that it is not what, quote, decent Midwesterners do and not what, quote, leaders do. How do you respond to that?
We are a true outlier, not only in the Midwest, but mostly throughout the country. So what other state is spending $1 billion? No one else in the Midwest is burdening their taxpayers with $1 billion of additional cost because they're insisting on making that state the most welcoming state in the nation as they try to get out on the national platform and run for another office. You got to concentrate on the office you've been elected and the state you've been elected to lead, and asking our taxpayers to shoulder that burden at $1 billion a year is not fair. And we're going to continue to oppose that. This is not about, people wanting to come to Illinois. I am the son of immigrants. My parents immigrated from Ireland. I understand why people want to come to this country. This is the greatest country in the history of this planet. And so I get why they want to come here. This is about the fairness to our taxpayers and the burden this governor is asking them to shoulder with his non-citizen welfare programs. That's what's got to end.
I want to ask you about another thing that is actually not connected to this influx of more immigrants, because it's a continuing program that has cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. The governor's next budget also includes more than $600 million to continue providing health care benefits to undocumented people 42 and older who would otherwise qualify for Medicaid. I know many Republicans have spoken out against this program. What are your thoughts about it?
This is another area where, this is a misplaced priority by the governor. This is part of that non-citizen welfare program that he has put in place. Last year, the budget appropriated $550 million for this. The governor claimed he couldn't control costs without emergency authority. The legislature gave him emergency rulemaking authority. We voted to give him that emergency rulemaking authority to give him the ability to manage this. I don't think he needed it. He could have put rules in place through the normal process, but he still failed to act. He still failed to put co-pays in place, and cost it still exploded well beyond the $550 million. This is a misplaced priority. He is asking Illinois taxpayers to shoulder this burden. That is not fair. They're already paying for their own health care. And this health care that they're paying for, the co-pays are minimal to nothing at this point. There were no co-pays last year. It is fee for service, while, the ordinary citizen out there has to get prior approval before they go to a specialist, seek a procedure or treatment. That is not this program. It is just walk in, get what you want. The governor has shown no ability to manage it, and that cost, that what he's proposing in this year's budget, I'm really skeptical that he could even manage the program at that cost. This is an area we have got to be fair to the taxpayers of Illinois. That is too much. We should not be asking them to shoulder that burden.
Yeah, as you noted, some co-pays have been added, but Capital News Illinois reporting that still the cost exceeding the budgeted amount for that program. And again, now there's an increase for the upcoming year that's being proposed of more than $600 million for that continuing program. Well, while there is a lot of disagreement about that issue and others, the governor may get some Republican support for another plan. He says that he wants to eliminate the 1% sales tax on groceries. Do you support that idea?
We do. I mean, this is about, helping families with food costs has never been higher. It's at a 30-year high. Just the cost of living, property taxes, families are overburdened, struggling to make ends meet. It is kind of, I think, a little disingenuous to hit them with a income tax increase to save the state, to raise revenue for the state, and then the local governments are going to shoulder the complete burden on the grocery tax. We absolutely support the rollback of the grocery tax receipts or grocery tax. We want to make sure that we work with local municipalities on that we're not creating other holes or problems. But at the same time, we need to course correct here. There should be no income tax increase on families all across Illinois. And that's what the governor's proposed.
Yeah, and just to give our audience some context on this, it is a rather rare thing to have a sales tax on groceries, even in some states that are considered higher tax states like Pennsylvania. The sales tax in Pennsylvania, as an example, does not include a grocery tax. In fact, in Pennsylvania, it does not even include a tax on clothing, because those are both considered necessities. So this is an interesting development. But as you point out, there is some controversy among some municipalities who are wondering, well, how do we make up that loss in revenue if that goes away? So we'll see. Do you think that it will pass? Do you think the elimination of the 1% grocery tax will pass in the General Assembly?
I do, and I'm hopeful that we turn towards Senator in my caucus. Senator DeWitt has been very vocal on this and has had a proposal filed for a while that actually backfills locals through the local government distributed fund. To make sure we're not creating holes at the local level, but absolutely repealing that tax. I do expect it to pass. It's just the details going to be what, if anything, we backfill with the locals.
All right. The governor has also proposed what he called a $12 million tax credit for low and middle income families with children under 3 years old. Tell me your thoughts on that idea.
We support families. Families are struggling. This is an opportunity, especially low-income families, to provide some assistance. This is birth through 3. I think it's an opportunity to expand, to even maybe expand this more. And at the same time, I think the federal is coming back on too. So this could be an opportunity to really couple with the federal child tax credit and provide some real relief, low-income parents that, are taking on a huge joyful burden with a new child. So I think that's going to receive broad bipartisan support.
Okay. The governor spent a good amount of time during his speech talking about an idea that will undoubtedly be popular with some voters. He said that Illinois needs additional regulation to ensure that health insurance companies do not deny care that doctors want their patients to receive. Your reaction to this?
I think there is general consensus and support for that notion. I think we're going to have to see the details. This was not a part of his budget plan that he shared ahead of time with any of the caucuses. So when we actually see the bill filed in terms of the details, but we want to knock down the barriers to Illinois citizens or residents getting access to the health care that they need. So in concept, it sounds like something that's going to receive a lot of support. Something like that is complicated and details are going to matter.
Okay, we'll look for those details. We're interested as well here, and I'm sure a lot of voters are interested. What are the details? The governor also said that he wants to eliminate the sale of stripped down health insurance policies in Illinois. As the governor noted, those are sometimes called, quote, junk insurance. He said that 12 other states have already eliminated the sale of these plans. Do you think Illinois should be number 13?
This is, again, going to be details. How are you going to, there's no definition in state statute on stripped down junk insurance, right? So we don't know exactly what he's talking about. That's a speech. It sounds fine in the speech. Now the governor needs to actually step up with actual details in front of the legislature, work with the legislature on a proposal like that. So
okay,
that's what the months ahead are going to be.
All right. The governor also talked about using $10 million in state funds to, he says, eliminate $1 billion in medical debt. He noted a nonprofit is doing this, paying to resolve medical debt at pennies on the dollar. Your thoughts about this idea?
This was a pilot. So I represent a portion of Cook County. This was a pilot program that Cook County government started about a year and a half ago. They've enjoyed success with it in terms of eliminating. This is really debt that will never be, these are debts that'll never be recovered, right? So they're on the secondary market. They've probably been sold 2 to 6 times, and it is an opportunity to buy it for a penny on the dollar. But what you're doing is you're clearing someone's credit history, usually lower income, and it's designed for lower income people. Clearing their credit history gives them a better opportunity of, renting an apartment, purchasing a car, getting a loan, things like that, really knocking down their barriers, some of the burdens that due to their economic status that oftentimes can hinder them. So it's a good proposal. I think it's a small investment that can reap larger gain for that segment amongst us, and we need to be looking at things like that. But I really want to applaud Cook. Cook County was the one that I think started this, and when you see something working somewhere, there's nothing wrong with trying to emulate it. So that's good.
All right. Interesting. We have talked a lot about what the governor has proposed. What are Republicans proposing that he did not? What do you want to highlight?
Republicans are looking to provide, long-term relief for working families here. So, in the areas of, property taxes and income taxes, we want to make sure that we are assisting our proposal on, which sounds like the governor's on board as well now, on the grocery tax. I mean, we want to provide relief for working families. At the same time, we're pursuing legislative initiatives on public safety. We certainly, especially more up my way, we have significant public safety concerns and issues. We have really impaired the whole prosecutorial and police process the past half decade, and that's something that we're looking to turn around. So we have a lot on the agenda. Obviously, we're in the super minority, so a lot of what we do also is really try to just highlight some of the more bad ideas that coming from the majority, why they're not right for the citizens' development.
Well, you highlighted a really important issue there. One area of continuous discussion in Illinois, as you know, involves the state's property taxes, which are among the very highest in the country. What should be done about that? And what do you think should be proposed, if anything? Because we're talking about huge differences between lower tax states. And some would argue this is a reason why there's an impediment to people staying in Illinois and moving here.
Really, property taxes and the estate tax are really the two biggest impediments to keeping residents here in Illinois, or moving to Illinois. We see a lot of end of life with the estate tax. People start thinking about, what's going to happen after, after they die, and they tend to move to states that don't have an estate tax. We have an onerous one here. Property tax is the same thing. A lot of times, especially our seniors, they end up getting taxed out of their homes. So one of the proposals we have on property taxes, we have to lift the low income property tax freeze. The cap on that has not kept. There's been no CPI applied to it. We've seen a large CPI spike with Social Security that has not. So it has not really kept up, and people are going to be losing their cap due to the increase in Social Security because their household income is going to bump above the cap, no fault of their own, and they're going to be socked with a significant property tax increase. So Senator Erica Harris has a proposal on that in our caucus, and that we're going to be pushing really hard behind. And we have a more comprehensive property tax proposal to try to provide relief to all property tax payers throughout the state. So a little more comprehensive. I know the Democrats, the majority, the school funding formula was designed to really build up the state's investment in K through 12 education, with the goal of not only funding education, but also removing their reliance from the property tax bill to try to bring down property taxes this way. But we know, and we have a proposal that we can actually do more. While that is going on, we don't want to wait for that to actually bear fruit on the property tax bill. We have a proposal we're pushing.
So I have just about 2 minutes left, Senator. Anything that you want to add as you reflect upon what will undoubtedly be a very challenging time in the General Assembly to look at all of the increasing costs that are facing the state, and then proposals for even more increases in certain areas?
I mean, we're getting into the budget process now. The start is and it's certainly the most important thing we do year in and year out. The start is with the governor's proposal. Last year, the Senate Democrats and the Senate Republicans really engaged in a good bipartisan process in really doing deep dives throughout the entire state budget to try to find better ways, more efficient ways, cost-cutting measures. And we're looking to do that same process this year. While it didn't ultimately land with a bipartisan budget, sometimes with super majorities, they don't really need us to pass a budget. This year is more challenging. So with that challenge, I'm excited because I think it gives us an opportunity. Maybe they need us a little more this year. And so I'm hopeful we're going to really have a great effect, bring our priorities of the parts of the state we represent to this budget process, and hopefully land a bipartisan budget that really reflects the balanced policy for all of Illinois.
Senator John Curran, the Senate Republican leader. Senator, thank you so much for being here.
Very nice to be with you. Thank you.
Good to have you. Thank you for being with us at home. For everyone at WSIU, I'm Fred Martino. Have a great night.